Alright guys, welcome to part 2 of the Ringedcity weapons. I will be making a part 3 of this, and hopefully you like it. And I am going to be trying to make some Hollow Knight content eventually, because I like that game a pretty good amount. But let me know if you think I should or I should do something else. Like if you guys want more Magic the Gathering unboxing content. And hopefully you guys have been liking my videos lately. But remember to always like, comment, and subscribe. I've also been experimenting with a couple things in this, which I hope you guys like. And otherwise, besides that, let's begin. The first weapon that I want to talk about is the Ringed Knight Straight Sword. This is a pretty good build that I have for it up, but I don't have it fully upgraded since I don't currently have all the upgrade materials needed for the character. From what I've seen, it's a fairly decent straight sword. It has the piercing move set for the R2 one-handed, and it has pretty much the same two-handed move set as any other. I would recommend using this with something like a Black Knight shield or like something that can do weapon skills. But Havel's shield is fine for the purposes of this video. I would recommend doing a relatively tanky build because you want to be able to take some hits. This is a fairly decent weapon for poisoning through stuff when you're doing the L2 spam, and it's good for closing massive distance, or not massive, decent distances, and roll catching people if they're starting to roll panic. It's not bad for roll catching. It does do split damage, which in some cases can make you do less damage than you want to do. But overall, I would say this weapon's pretty good on lighter characters. I would not recommend using it because this thing requires you to be able to take a couple hits to do some good damage. And you might want to do shield hugging, but at the same time, just running around while shield hugging. And overall, I'd say this weapon is good, but not great. It's usually a standard invasion build loadout for quite a few invaders with Exile Helmet and Gundyar's armor, so you're going to expect to see this in a decent amount of invasions. But from what I've seen, I have been seeing it a truckload in more of these matches. And on to our next weapon. Our next weapon will be the Split Leaf Greatsword. I find this to be a very interesting weapon because, unlike the name suggests, it is not a greatsword by any means. It has decent poise like a greatsword, but in reality, it's a halberd. And this is kind of difficult to use because you can't really use a shield to use it effectively, in my case. And its one-handed moveset's not bad, but it's not great. Where it really shines is its two-handed moveset, where the running R1, you can usually get people running from you once you do an L2 R2 combo. But if you do an L2 R1 combo, it's lighter damage, but it comes out slightly quicker. This is one of the few weapons that you can do true combo with, from what I've seen, because you can get them stunned for both hits. It's good against medium armored characters because you don't need to do so much damage, and I don't have this fully upgraded for your information, so I don't have maximized damage. I'm just often using these on my Howl Monster build. And it's pretty good for chasing people down that just lost their Tears of Denial, but I would just recommend using a throwing knife instead because it's much easier. And you can, if you have enough poise, stick through the initial swing, even if they're swinging at you, like with Havel's armor. From what I've seen, this weapon's main weakness is the is another weapon from the Ring City, the twin Ring Knight Greatswords, because these can just stun lock you to where you can't really do much, and they have high enough damage output to where even when they run out of stamina, you're often dead by then. And even if you try to true combo L2 R2 them, they often have enough HP and you don't have enough damage resistance to where they can withstand your attacks. And overall, I would say this weapon is meh. It's not bad, it has its uses, and if you're really good at using it, you can get off some pretty nice kills with it. It is buffable, which is a pretty good benefit for if you want to add stuff like Karthus, Flame Sword, or if you want to do buffs like Pine Resin or Lightning Resin. And against mages, I say this would be pretty good, because unless they're one of those weird great sword wielding mages that use Magic Astora's great sword, because that's just good for practically any build from what I've seen. You're often going to come out on top if you know how to use this correctly, and its R2s aren't that good unless you're doing it with the L2, because it's just the spin that you can be heavily exploited by anything that has longer reach than it. Or they can also just back away for just a right amount of time, and then you're practically dead because you're near out of stamina. Most like other weapons from the Ring City, you must have high stamina to be able to do a decent amount of attacks with this, and to be able to run away in time to not be hit by whatever they're throwing at you. This build, you have to be very elusive with their attacks, and you need to be able to do hit and run strategies. So you essentially have to do guerrilla tactics. But now on to the weapon, which I think is absolute garbage. I thought this would be interesting at the very least, but when you do its ultimate attack, you can't do it for a full amount of time. So Gale's crossbow, it's just kind of obsolete. Because there are better crossbows. Yes, I can see this would be an interesting one to use if you have full explosive bolts and they just got off a mage attack or something. But it's just not that good. And I've tried using it in its single shot form, and it falls under the problem that most crossbows have. They're just really bad, usually, unless you're using explosive bolts and have weird enough things. And even if you land all of your shots, it deals pretty low damage from what I've seen, and it doesn't have that great scaling. And correct me if I'm wrong, just I think it barely does any damage even when you've maxed it out completely. Because you need to hit all your shots, you need to stand practically stationary for its main ability, which is not exactly great. I mean, it's cool, you can move slightly and all, but your opponent can move like 30 times faster than you in that state. Mages practically have you dead at all times, and the only time I got a kill with this, technically, is by getting a backstab off of an AFK player, loading him up until I was out of bolts, and then I couldn't do anything with the crossbow, so to end the match, so I could get more footage for the video, after this guy had taken like 90 crossbow bolts to the chest, which I get headshot multipliers and everything, but they do not hit the head. Whatever you try to do, unless they have some weird rolling clip thing, they're not gonna hit the head. And even then, it's just kind of a damage. As you can see here, I'm running out of bolts, and I'm thinking about what to do, and then I just stab him with my sword. Because I thought maybe, just maybe, the crossbow's meant to be used as a left-handed weapon, but no! No, I don't believe it is. This thing is absolute garbage. Which sucks, because Gale's other weapon is really good, and Gale uses this thing and makes it look good. This is just a case of when the boss has it, it's super OP and badass, but when you have it, it's kind of just a pea shooter. You're just kind of shooting paintballs at them. Sure, they deal damage, and theoretically, yes, they could kill them, but in practicality, this weapon is not good at all. It's pretty horrible, and I would recommend just leaving this thing alone and never, ever, ever picking it up. And with Gale's Greatsword, I believe you could make a cool cosplay or something with this, but overall, even if you use it on the offhand occasion that they're running away to heal or you try to get their tears off, you might miss because the bolt's a stationary path once it's shot and it takes a second to reload. So with just crossbows in general, they're not that fantastic, and it takes up your shield slot. And I might be forgiven if you could do the ultimate thing while it's in your offhand. That would be actually cool and probably helpful in some situations. But on to our next one. I think a interesting one would be the Murky Hand Scythe. I am personally not good with this, but from what I've seen and from what I've experienced with it, it's pretty good against heavy weapons if you can time the quick steps, and it's with the quick steps it makes it decently viable against things in PvE. I was using this on my Pyromancer build since I didn't have the Murky Hand Scythe on my Havel Monster build because I just didn't pick it up. But I think this in Invasions isn't bad against mages also because it gets you a couple quick hits and it can stun lock them because they have low poise. I think where this weapon kinda sucks is medium class characters where they have decent armor but they can move really, really fast with their weapon attacks. And with that, I think it's great with the quick step weapon art and PvE in areas like the Dreg Heap Swamp and in Farron Keep because you can go through the swamps very fast compared to how you usually go through them. And the quick step does give you invincibility frames, which is handy. I would say that this is a weapon you have to do with a Dex character to get really good damage in. But this is not something you go in balls to the wall and stabby, stabby, stabby. You gotta do hit and run tactics like the Split Leaf Greatsword. The Split Leaf Greatsword, you can go slightly more aggressive with it, but this you have to get in a couple hits and then wait till they can't hit you again to get more hits. And what I find interesting about this weapon is that even though it's in the dagger class, it's very strange for a dagger. And I hope you guys like the video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And remember that if you can comment and tell me if I did anything wrong or If you have a certain opinion on something that you think I did wrong or whatever, please comment and tell me. And otherwise, besides that, have a good day, and please look out for my next content. Goodbye.